Okay, so I'm back with the second part of this build, and in this build we're mainly focusing on the location and the landscaping aspects of the build. So if you saw my previous video, I created this build in a whole different town, in a whole different world, Sims world. I wanted to move it over to the ideal world that I'd like it to stay in, and I believe where it is, if I'm correct, is Sulani, the Sulani world basically. It's the island version of it with I think it's called Island Living Pack. That's so I wanted it on the island, and I just was looking around the different lots and different areas, and I thought this would be the perfect place because it is so, I just like the secludedness of the lot itself. It's in between the mountains and near the volcano, and it goes right down. It has a pathway that leads right down to the seascape, which is brilliant. It's just a vibe. It's just a vibe in general. This weather where I am in the UK has been absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And I really just wanted to put my build in a hot, sunny environment because I can't get away to a sunny environment right now. And this area, this lot, was just giving me all the vibes I needed for this build. So the main thing that I wanted to make a note of is the stilts were like the hardest part of this build. The foundational stilts were the hardest part of this build because for some reason I was getting little areas where the stilts were not applying to, and I honestly don't understand why. And maybe in the next build, if I try and use stilts, it might work. I don't know. I've never been very good at the stilts and foundation building part of sim builds. Neither the roof. I've never been great at making roofs either. So most of that bit, the foundations, took a long time to get right. So that's why you might see jumping in the video between the start of the stilts and foundation build and the end part, because I just was not going to put you guys through that, watching me struggle on how to build that kind of stuff. Anyway, so when I got the base done, basically, I looked at the house again and I thought, okay, I really like how the house is, I like how the build is, but there are some things I could amend. And part of that amendment, I wanted to extend some of the areas. So like the bathroom, I wanted to create a separate bathroom for the actual build. So it's just a bit more, there's a bit more space for the sim as well, and it's not too claustrophobic, if that makes sense. And then another thing I wanted to do was just extend the counter area just to make it a bit more realistic. I just wanted to make it a little bit more realistic, extend the counter area so at least 2 people could live there, because realistically most people like to have at least two sims in a build when they're playing. So I thought, let me make it a little bit more livable for 2 sims. The other thing that I wanted to do as well is add a lot more of the clutter objects and decor objects in the build to make it look more lived in, and part of that being, like, for example, adding a TV, adding some boxes, adding some more I think it's nectar boxes as well, because I have the ranch pack, so adding nectar boxes and all those kind of things. I've also got dine out, so that let me have I found a couple more objects to place around. Some of my favorite like clutter objects I like to use is I don't even know what the technical term of it is, but it's this produce. It's like oranges in like a wood container box. I love that object. I don't know why, I just like using it in a lot of my builds. I also like the box that they have where it's got an apple on it. You'll see it in the build anyway, but there's a box with a picture of an apple on it, and it's like a crate kind of thing. I love those kind of crate objects. I don't know why, they just look good in the builds that I do. And I wanted a dining area, but I did not have enough space. But I thought, okay, so this sim is going to live on the island, so it's not too far-fetched to have a outdoor dining area, because a lot of the time you would eat outside. You've got better weather, especially if you're in the UK. You can't really do that in the UK, but if you're in the islands, you should be able to eat outside a bit better because you get better weather most of the time. So I thought, let me actually have a seating and also dining area, just a basic dining table outside as well on the decking, so they can enjoy that. And also the little lights as well that I used over the dining area just topped off. It made it magical and cozy at the same time. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's how I felt. I was really happy with how that aesthetic came out with those little details. I envisioned as well that the sim would be the same storyline as before, that the sim would have moved to the island and is looking to open a business and is starting from scratch. But I also want them to be like into health and yoga and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to create a little section where your sim could like do meditation. I wanted to create another section on the decking where if they wanted to entertain people, they could play cards and have a little bit of an activity. That's the kind of like things I was thinking about when creating this build, and I think it just adds to the overall cozy experience, more realistic experience of a house. But that's just me, that's just my personal opinion. You guys might not even think so, but that's just my opinion. That's what I was going for. Hopefully I achieved it in this build. The other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted the landscaping aspect of the build to be very nature like. I didn't want clean lines where you could see a pathway and a bush. I wanted all of it to kind of blend together as if you are living in the countryside, as if things are kind of landscaped and put together, but obviously due to natural environmental factors, the plants have overgrown the pathway, and there's different areas in the yard where you could sit and hang out. It's completely up to, if anyone wants to play with this build, it's completely up to them. They could add more furniture as well in the areas on the ground where all the greenery is. I thought that would be like good. That's why I wanted to leave those bits fairly empty compared to the rest of the build. But you could add more stuff or take away more stuff where necessary. You could even probably add a pool if you wanted to, or a pond or something along those lines in those areas. But I just wanted to leave some space on the ground so that whoever wants to play the build can add what they want without having to delete a whole bunch of stuff. But I feel like just having that kind of realistic tree and overgrown sections was really beneficial in terms of making it feel more lived in and more realistic. Now there's just some things I want to talk about in terms of the small details, what can be considered small details of the build. One of the things I was really struggling with was getting the right outside decor for the actual build in terms of like the wallpaper for the house, because I didn't want it to look too modern, but I didn't want it to look too rough either. So I was jumping and switching between either having it all the earthy wood kind of color, or actually have a more realistic kind of build in the Caribbean where a lot of the houses are more colorful. So I thought, okay, if I stick with the wood kind of paneling, because that actually works and it actually looks good with the build, if I stick with that wood paneling and then actually just change the color and make it bright, it would blend in more, or it would just add to the build. And I think I was able to achieve that. I think the blue kind of separates, it gives it a good balance aesthetically in terms of the whole lot, because I feel like if I made the wood paneling just like the other wood kind of characteristics of the build, everything would blend in and it just wouldn't look as impactful. But I really think the blue made it pop. Once again, the roofing as well, I wasn't great. As I said, I'm not great with roofing at all. I'm giving you guys a heads up now, I'm not great with roofing at all. But I didn't want the roof, I knew I didn't want the roof to be too modern or clean as well. I want it to be kind of that kind of rough exterior that you can see in some some homes in the countryside, especially in the Caribbean. So I think the tin roof was one of the better options. I did try other ones, but they just looked too out of place in this environment. I didn't want a straw roof because I feel like it's just, yeah, it just didn't suit the build. I don't think a straw roof would suit the build anyway, so I just didn't want the straw roof either. I was thinking of making like a skylight, maybe like glass, but I just didn't know which area I'd want to put that in without it looking completely off, basically. So another tip that I actually do mention in my live streams, and if you want to check out my live streams, I do most of them on TikTok. I am going to look to do live streams on YouTube, but most of my live streams are on TikTok. And one thing I did say in my live streams, which I do stick by, is that when I'm trying to create a landscaping area and I don't want to have that clear separation line between the actual lot and the rest of the world's terrain, I tend to put trees, rocks, nature features over the lot line, and I'm able to do that using move objects. First of all, is a big help with doing that, and also the tool mod by, I think it's Twisted Mexi, that also helps me move things over the lot boundary lines. It kind of helps blend a lot into the actual world, especially if you're having different kind of terrain gradients, if you want the terrain to blend in. So for example, in this lot, I wanted a mixture of sand and dirt, trying to copy what I'm seeing around in the actual environment. But when you take away the lot line, it looked very, very harsh if I didn't have any plants or anything. So what I did do was start to add plants and make sure I either enlarged them or downscale them depending on what size I wanted. But I made sure that the plants went over the lot line, because it kind of hides it, or kind of blends the stuff in, so it's not as noticeable. I did actually try to create a seated kind of area where the Sims could sit on a log as well, in the outdoor area, but it just didn't work. I don't know why. I've still got to work out that mechanic, but I thought if I downsized the stalls and put them under the log, maybe Sims would be able to sit on top of the log and make it look like they're sitting on the log, but that didn't work at all, so I just left the log as it is. It's just a nice touch. I thought, let me not remove it. But a lot of the landscape was very just spur of the moment. I didn't really have much thought into it. I just put like trees and bushes where I felt like putting them. I was absolutely sure that I wanted to have big trees though as part of the build, just to fit into that kind of environment of where the lot is located. And I was very conscious to make sure that a lot of the plants I used were very rough, not neat, and not like shaped or anything else. I want them to be very rough and wild. So I think a lot of the bushes that I used came from the werewolf pack, the island living pack, and I think ranch as well. The ranch pack as well. I think a lot of those plants came from there. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. This is what the build ended up looking like. This is the end result. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I just wanted to show you guys the scenery of where this build is, because I really recommend you trying to build in this area. It's really beautiful, especially if you look around and the surroundings of the area. It's really beautiful, and I really recommend you try it. Anyway, if you got this far, thank you for watching. Let me know what other builds that you think I should try doing, and I will see you in the next video, guys. All right, in a bit. Bye.